Okay, it's minute past 1, so let's get going. I'd like to wish everyone a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you are. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join our webinar entitled Extract Insights from Spatial Temporal Data in Minutes, Not Months. First, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker. We've got Bart Adams. Bart is the founder and CTO of xyzt.ai and has held senior leadership positions at Luciad and Hexagon, where he was the product management director and chief innovation officer. Bart holds a PhD computer science at the KU Leuven and a postdoc from Stanford University. So let's take a look at what Bart will be presenting to you today. First of all, we'll jump into the presentation, start by setting the scene and introducing you to xyzt.ai. Bart will then show a couple of demos showing how to extract insights in minutes, not months. We'll then wrap up with some key takeaways, and at the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. It is only a 30-minute webinar, so we'll see how we do on those. Before we get started, just a few little rules here. If you do have any questions during the webinar, can you please ask them via the QA box or in the chat area? We'll try and answer as many of them as we can, but like I say, 30 minutes, depending on how many do have and how much time. If we don't get around to them, then we'll reach out to you via email directly. The webinar is recorded and we'll share it with you as soon as possible after the webinar. So now, without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Bart.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to talk a lot about xyzt.ai, but first I want to talk a little bit about you. So this is you. Still, unfortunately, with all the work from home policies, we are spending time in traffic jams. And then if we would take public transport, we're also in this situation. So this is also you. You're in crowded areas, in unsafe areas, in not so pleasant areas when being there with many people. And then let's hope this wasn't you. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't you. But definitely some of you will have been impacted by this event where the vessel was stuck in the Suez Canal and many of our packages coming from China were not delivered in time. So this is all impacting us, but luckily, and I really say luckily, you are being tracked. And maybe you don't know, but most newer cars, they are being tracked. The location, the GPS location, also the velocity is basically transmitted continuously for good. And also, if you walk in a public place, crowds are also being tracked. Technologies are used to monitor whether it's busy or not busy, whether there's lines or queues, and whether everything is still safe and pleasant to be in. And then, of course, vessels are being tracked, and we will show a lot of vessel data today also in the demos. So I'm really saying, luckily, of course, there's the whole privacy concern, and we take that very seriously, and also the partners we work with take that very seriously. But it's because the technologies of tracking you that all those problems can be solved. Now, does this mean that all is good and well? No. Unfortunately, or maybe luckily, the data is big. It's not only big, it's also complex. It's not just data, it's spatial-temporal data, which means there's a spatial component to it. It happens somewhere on Earth, and there's a temporal component on it. It happens somewhere in time. And then there's typically dozens or hundreds of attributes associated to all those data points. And as you can imagine, a couple of years ago, not a single car was being tracked. And now almost 10% of the cars are being tracked, and it's just going to explode over the coming years, the amount of data. And the data is so big, and spatial-temporal analytics is quite complex to do so, something that I personally also experienced over the past 10 years, but also our customers are saying. And this is actually a quote of one of our customers from the vice president of data. And he said, normally it would take my analysts, my data scientists, 3 months to extract insights out of movement data using open source, using Python scripts and algorithms. And he said, with your tool, we could do it in half an hour. So that's like cutting down time from months to really minutes. And that's what this webinar will be about. So what are we? We are xyzt.ai. We provide a self-service analytics platform. We operate software as a service, which means that we run the software in the cloud. We take care of hosting the software, of storing your data, of providing the analytics. And what makes us unique, and I'll talk about that a lot today, is that we scale to billions of records while still allowing you to have the fluent, smooth, easy interactivity that you would expect from a BI tool, from a business intelligence tool. You can bring your own data, so there's no lock-in. You can use it with any data, and you can also fuse multiple data sources. And really, with our tool, you can go live in minutes and not in months. There's no special integration or deployment needed. So what does it look like? And this is a screenshot with data from one of our partners, Spire Maritime. They were really kind to provide us with a 3 weeks of data set of maritime vessel activity globally. So it's a global data set, the entire world. And if you think about the data, it's really billions of data points. So, and the data set is in the demo, is in the free trial that I will show today, and you will be able to explore it yourself. So what are you seeing? You're seeing actually one of the analytical pages in our platform. What makes it unique is you can look at billions of data points and still do interactive analysis. You can fuse multiple layers together to get situational awareness, to put context to the data. We spend a lot of effort in making it as easy as a BI tool. And one of the special things, and that's because we're a new kid on the block, I would say, compared to the GIS tools, is that in our core implementation, time is a prime citizen. So time is really handled from the beginning into the design, into the architecture of the platform. And that's what makes spatial-temporal analytics so easy with our tool. This is another screenshot of the tool. It's actually a screenshot of a demonstration I gave last week during a webinar with INRIX. And INRIX is in the business of mobility. And in this case, you're looking at floating vehicle data, and you see a heat map of car traffic along the A45 in Germany. And what you see on the left is actually the normal situation. You see traffic going from south to north and north to south along this highway, and you see how busy it is. On the right side, you see the current situation. And as you can see on the map, the highway is closed off. So basically, there's works going on the highway, and in this case, it's quite severe. There's structural damage to a long bridge, and so there's no traffic at all along the highway. And what you can see from this picture is that the traffic is diverted, and it's actually flowing through this little town of Lüdenscheid. And with floating vehicle data, with the data of cars being tracked, the Autobahn can now get a complete picture of what is happening surrounding the A45, something that would be very difficult to obtain without floating vehicle data. And so this little view alone by itself gives them tremendous value and tremendous insight into what is happening. So how does the platform work? It works in 4 easy steps. In the first step, you connect your data. You do it by drag and dropping CSV files, or you use an API to push the data to the platform. We structure the data, we manage the data, and then it becomes available for analysis. And the analysis typically starts with defining your areas of interest, whether it's a highway, whether it's a neighborhood in a city, whether it's an anchorage zone close to a port. That's up to you. Then you can start monitoring and analyzing what is happening in real time or in an historic fashion to do a change analysis, for example. And then you can build up dashboards. And those dashboards you can share, and you can share with your customers, with your colleagues, and they allow you to take action when something happens or when you found something in the data. How can you try it yourself? That's, of course, what it's about today. The first step is go to our website, xyzt.ai. And in the top right corner, you will see a button, try it. You click on that button, and then you can sign up in a few easy steps, and you can immediately start discovering the platform with the sample data from our partners that we have in the tool. So let me show you that, how that is working. So you go to our website, it's xyzt.ai. The top right corner, you click on try it. That brings you to a form which you can fill in like this. I'm going to use a slightly different email here because I'm already registered with another email, but I want to show you really from the start how signing up works on the platform. So you provide us your credentials, and those are used to sign you up. Within the platform, you then end up on the welcome page. And on the welcome page, you will see there is a short movie. It's a 5-minute movie. There's a voiceover, and it really explains what I'm going to show you today. So later on, you can always revert to this movie. You can find it back here by clicking in the top left corner if you're lost. There's also a whole documentation platform that you can find, where you can find tutorials on how to get started with the platform. But let me show you today how it works. I'm going to explain you the UI a little bit first, and let's focus maybe on the left side here, on the navigation bar. It's divided in a couple blocks, and the first block is really where you manage your projects. Here you can always go back, switch to a different project, or create a new project. The second block that you see here is where all the analytics is exposed, and that's where we do all the magic. This is where you can go visually analyze your data, you can do trend analysis to see what is happening over time. You can do distribution analytics, which allows you to see what's the distribution in my data. For example, how many cars are person cars, or how many cars are like trucks in certain areas. That you can do here. Origin destination allows you to see where traffic comes from and goes to, and how that is changing over time. And here you can build your dashboard, and I'll give a couple examples of that. The third block on the left side is where you can find the resources. And in the platform, there's 3 types of resources. There's the data sets, which is like the GPS coordinates, the data of the things that are being tracked. The areas of interest, those are the areas that you would like to monitor and analyze. And then, of course, you have to put your data in context with background layers. They can be Mapbox background layers, they can be WMS, they can be GeoJSON, so anything that you would want to connect to. And here you can find, in the final 4th block, you can find all the documentation. So when you get on the platform and you go to the projects, you will see that there's 0 of your own projects, but there's a couple of sample projects. We have one really nice one from our partner Inrix with floating vehicle data. It's a really nice data set. There's one with data from aviation, from aircraft, and this we got from Spire Aviation, one of our partners. And then the final one here is a maritime data set. It's with AIS data, and AIS is actually a technology that is used to track vessels. When you click on the card, or you click on the visual analytics button that you see, you are taken immediately to the view on the data. And one of the principles that we employ throughout the platform, and that's something that we learned over the last years, is that it's really important to first provide an overview. If the data gets big, if you're talking about billions of data points, and this is actually a data set of 1.3 billion data points, you want to provide the user first with an overview. And that's exactly what we do. What you can also see here at the top, there's this warning message that this is a read-only project. What I suggest you to do is to click on this button here, and it creates an editable copy. You get exactly the same project with the same data, but the project is editable, and you will be able to add additional shapes to the platform to do certain additional analysis, maybe build even your own dashboard. So what is so special about our platform? It's a space-time analytics platform. So first you see the data on the map. That gives you spatial insights. Where are things happening? Where are things moving? At the bottom of the screen, you see a timeline. And as I said, time is a core citizen in our platform. So it's always available for you to analyze. The timeline by default, and you can see that here, shows a histogram on the number of vessels. And then finally, on the right side, here you have the layer panel. You can, of course, combine multiple layers together. You can also filter. I'll show that later on also. Here you have the data distribution, and this we call the 3rd view on the data. So you have the spatial view, the temporal view, and the data distribution. And basically what the data distribution panel shows you is what is happening in the data with all the properties in the data. So for example, in this data set, there is a property ship type. And now I know just from looking at this little widget here that most of the ships or the vessels in the view are of the type cargo. So that gives you insight immediately what you're looking at. So what we did in the past years is we designed an architecture, we designed algorithms and data structures to make sure that you can look at this data on any device. You can even do that on your iPhone to scale to billions of data points and do interactive analysis. And let me show you how that works. So interactive analysis means that you start with your overview and then you drill down in your data. And one of the first things you might want to do is maybe filter on time. Like if you're doing a before and after analysis, you want to look at the time period before and then maybe later at the time period after. And what you will see is if I do this time filtering, if I change my time window, you will see that the map updates instantly and also the data distribution updates. So immediately I get feedback on what I'm looking at. And that's where really the value of our platform lies, is that you can do that for billions of data points and still get like sub-second or second update rates on your visualization. The same happens if I zoom in on the map. So for example, if I zoom in on my map, you will see that the map will update. It will fetch more detailed data or more detailed views on the data, but also the timeline here showing the number of vessels and all the different properties in the data updates. So whenever I move around on the map, you will see that the map updates, the timeline, histograms update, and the widgets update. And so everything is interactive. And basically the map serves as a filter. The map serves as a filter on the data that you're looking at. So it allows you to explore the data in a very interactive way. So for example, if I would zoom in on this area here near the Suez Canal, I could start analyzing what is happening in this area. And from this, I immediately see on the timeline that something is not going as expected. You see the normal flow of data, the normal number of vessels has this like periodical trend, while from March 23, you see that it's going up. So basically what is happening is that the vessel got stuck, the Ever Given got stuck, and vessels are basically queuing up in this anchorage zone. And that's what you see here in the data. If I want then to focus maybe on that time period, I just move my time window here, and you will see that how many vessels there are in the view and what is happening, type of vessels and so on. Of course, you can also style your data. So for example, I could start styling my data on ship type, use a different color attribute for the different ship types, and I could see what is happening in this region. If I want a satellite imagery background layer, I can also do that and just switch to a different background layer. And that gives me then this situational awareness. The next thing you can do is, of course, and let me show me back a heat map of the data and fit on the map. The next thing you can do is you can start filtering on the data. I already filtered in space, in time, but you can also filter based on the different properties in the data. And that is done here on the right side. I'm gonna first select that I want to filter on a property. I select the property I want to filter on, so for example, ship type, and I select the type of vessel that I want to see. In case I want to keep the fishing vessels, I say include them, and I get immediately a picture of the entire globe where fishing vessels are active in these 3 weeks of data. If I, on the other hand, want to see the other activity, I just exclude the fishing vessels, and now I see the other activity. And of course, you can combine all those filters together to get a more complex filtering on the data. Now, the platform also allows you to filter in space. Let me show that also. So for example, if I'm interested to know how much traffic goes south of Africa, I can apply a filter here. And now I immediately get to see the traffic that goes through this region. If I then, for example, want to compare this with the traffic going through the Suez Canal, I can just split my map and I can say here on the right map, okay, now I want to see the traffic through this region, and I get the comparison. I get to see where traffic comes from, where traffic goes to, and I get to see how what the difference is. And of course, I can then start filtering on the type of vessel and so on. So this is the visual analytics. It's one of the analytical pages in the platform. I encourage you to also discover the other ones. What I wanted to show you also, and this is really something that a lot of our customers use, is the capability to build up a dashboard. So for example, say that I'm monitoring this area and I want to know what is happening in the last day. I put a filter on the timeline and I set it to the last day. I put my spatial filter on the map to see the traffic going through, and I see that there's so many vessels. Now, if I want to put this on a dashboard, I can just click here and add this widget on a dashboard. So I can say here, okay, let's monitor South Africa. I put it in a new group and I call this South Africa last day. If you want to add some description, you can do that. And basically in the platform, in any place, you can put widgets on the dashboard. For example, if I want to add the map as a widget, I can just say here, and I'll just put it in the same widget group. And so this way I can build up an analysis, I can build up a data story, I can build up a control room type of dashboard that allows me to monitor what is going on. And this is the whole dashboard that you get with the sample project. And here you will see the two widgets that I created now. And of course, those dashboards can be shared. You can share them with a shared link, and then someone else outside the organization can also access this. The dashboards themselves, they're actually live in the sense that if you push in new data with the API, the dashboards will update if the data is relevant to the various filters. And you can also always go back to what is shown on the dashboard by clicking on the widget, and that will take you back to the place where the widget was created with the exact same settings as you did. I want to show you one more data set for the people that are not in the maritime domain. There's a nice data set also with floating vehicle data. I go back to the sample projects. I click on the INRIX one. And what you see here, and let me just also create an editable copy for this project. What you see here is actually floating vehicle data. It's a week of data of traffic going through Hamburg. And Hamburg is a big city in Germany. And you see the heat map here. You see where the traffic comes from. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a small analysis that is very typical in traffic analysis. And I'm going to focus on a bridge in Hamburg. So I'll just search here for the Elbbrücken. And you see here, I'm now focused on Hamburg. You see all the traffic, the heat map of all the traffic. And this is my bridge. And in this case, I want to show as a traffic analyst, maybe I'm tasked to analyze what is happening at this bridge. What is the velocity profile? How much traffic is there coming by? How is that changing over time? So what I can do is I can just zoom in on this area. My map serves as a spatial filter. So just by zooming on this map, I can already see from the right side here what the velocity profile is. What I can also do then, of course, is, for example, color the map by velocity. So I'm going to do that here. I'm going to select a color map. I'm going to adjust the range. In Germany, people like to drive quite fast, so that's why the range is quite big. But immediately you see, just from coloring the data on the bridge, you see that there's like a difference in velocity in the traffic going north and going south. So what I can do now is I can basically start filtering on this even further and say, okay, now I want to see the traffic in one direction. And from this property here, the heading, I see that the traffic is going basically in two directions, which is expected at this place. So I'm going to select the heading, and I'm first going to select one direction. And you see the data is filtered out. I only get the traffic in that direction. I get the speed profile. If I want to see the speed over time, I can switch the visualization on the timeline, and I can see what the speed profile looks like over time. And you can see it's around 70 kilometers an hour. If I want to see the other direction, I can just exclude the before, and I can see very different speed profile, much more congestion in the other direction. And that I can see here from the bumps in my timeline. So you see, with the tool, you can do all types of space-time analysis, and it goes much further than just floating vehicle data. You can also use it with, for example, weather data, atmospheric data. As long as there is a spatial and temporal component, you can use it. You can try for yourself. You can just go to the website. In the top right corner, you can click on try it. You can sign up and discover those sample projects yourself. You can even build your own dashboards in the trial. So just to summarize, what is the benefit that we bring for you? Well, without xyzt.ai, what we see is that organizations need data scientists to work with this type of data. And especially because it's big data, it takes them time to build algorithms for the specific needs that maybe other business units have to develop. xyzt.ai is a self-service analytics platform. We try to make it as easy as possible for any analyst, for any person in an organization that can work with a BI tool, that can work with Excel, so to speak, to work with our tool. It's a big challenge typically to handle large data sets. We take that burden away. Also in structuring the data, in making sure that you can do the spatial and temporal queries on the data. Also to aggregate multiple data sources. So without our tool, we see that in many places the data is sitting there, but it's just not being used, and you don't extract additional business cases and gain situational awareness. What we also spend a lot of time on is making sure that it's not just an analysis tool, but it's also a tool that can be used for reporting, for sharing with different audiences. Like some of our customers are even using it for marketing purposes or for showing insights to the press and to the policymakers. If you want to develop something like this, it's not an easy task. We spent a couple of years on it. And especially if you have to answer new questions over and over, it takes a long time to develop those algorithms again and again. And that's where we come in, and with our tool, you can go really fast starting to use it, but also you can go really fast integrating it into your own platform, into your own solution. So with that, I would like to thank you. I have one poll question I would like to ask. Of course, this was a bit of a generic demo. We typically like to listen to your needs and to adapt the demo to what you like. So if you want more information, please tell us. If you want a customized demo, tell us also. If you found what you needed for, that's also fine. Please go to the trial and test it out yourself. So please, if you can answer this little poll, that would help us in knowing how to talk to you. All right. Joe, I think with that, we are ready for maybe some questions if we still have some time. And otherwise, you're free to reach out, send a mail to our info mailbox, or you can find me also on LinkedIn and ping me a message. But of course, I'm very happy to answer your questions now also.
Sure, I'll just end the poll there. So thank you everyone for answering that. Yeah, first question, but literally, yeah, we've got a couple of minutes for this, about the subscription models and how do you base things on tiers, or how does the model work? Yeah,
we basically have 3 tiers, cater to different needs, to different sizes of the organization. The first tier is called the analyst, and you can find this information on the website, and we can send a link. Is the analyst, it's like for a one-person license. It's a subscription, can be monthly, yearly. The second tier is called the team one. It's for 5 licenses, allows for slightly bigger data sets. That tier also introduces the API, and there's a whole API to ingest data that you can automate the data ingestion. And then the third tier is called the Upscale Tier. It's a license for 10 people, allows you to go to data sets of billions of data points. And that also introduces the sharing and the embedding. So that's the third tier.
Okay,
Joe,
great,
while
thanks.
I'm thinking of that, I don't know if you posted a link to the trial already. Okay, you did.
Yeah, it's been in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. For those that have any questions, then we will reach out to you directly via email and answer those questions. So we don't want to take up any more of your time. But thank you very much for joining us, Bart. Thank you for doing that. And yeah, have a good rest of your day, everyone. And we'll see you for the next webinar.
Thank you all.